I, female 20, have an older brother, 34, Tim. Tim has a wife, Vicky, 33. I've noticed Vicky's been acting weird around me for a while now. She avoids interacting with me, avoids eye contact, doesn't make conversations, and generally seems annoyed with my presence. I wasn't really sure what her problem was. It was starting to get to me, so I gently asked him about it. He confirmed Vicky was angry at me over something. He explained that a while ago, my mother posted some old photos from his and Vicky's wedding on Facebook. I don't have Facebook, so I didn't know, and that she used a filter or photo editor to make my dress look white when it was actually pastel blue. Later, Tim, Vicky, and I were alone, and Tim brought this issue up and said it needed to be talked about. Vicky started to become visibly upset, and she pretty much repeated what Tim told me and said that the edited photos were disrespectful and that I really shouldn't have worn a color that was so close to white anyway. I reminded Vicky that I was a tween when they got married, and I don't even really remember much from it. She said I must have had some choice in what to wear. I told her I didn't know because I don't remember, and that if it bothered her so much, she should take it up with my mom. I told her that this grudge she was holding against me was stupid. Vicky looked mortified and said that I didn't have to be so calloused and that I had no reason to be rude to her and dismiss her concerns. Tim is also now mad at me because I disrespected his wife. I didn't understand what other response she'd be expecting, especially when I had a complicated relationship with my parents. Am I the idiot for telling my sister-in-law that the grudge she's holding against me over wedding photos is stupid? So you wore a blue dress. Someone else doctored the photo and made the dress look whiter than actuality, and now you're Cruella de Vil in a white dress at a wedding? Holy heck, your brother and sister-in-law are bonkers. Not the idiot, but they are. It sounds like their hobby is to find ways to be offended. She's mad at you for wearing a blue dress to a wedding as a 9-year-old girl? As if you realistically had a lot of say over your clothes at that age, and because your mother reposted the picture with a filter years later. This is the same level of BS as when people get mad about things that happened in their dreams. You've done nothing wrong, and everyone knows it. She's embarrassed at her own ridiculousness and lashing out at you for embarrassing her instead of realizing she embarrassed herself. Tell your brother that until she apologizes for her ludicrous behavior, they can both keep their unstable butts away from you. And it was 11 years ago. Even if you wore white, who cares? Many little girls wear communion or white Easter dresses to a wedding. My toddler wore a white dress with many flowers to someone's wedding. She has to get her speech ready for the arguments in 20 years, I guess. Heck, I guess I'm mad at OP since my shoelaces don't stay tied. I have no idea how that has anything to do with them, but when in Rome. OP ruined my dinner. I'm only assuming that they're in the same country as me, but they ruined my dinner all the same. Oh, right, OP. Ruined my dinner 8 years ago. Shame on OP. Your mother made you wear that dress. Your mother made that picture. Your mother posted it and did or did not use a filter. Nothing about this was on you. And it's pretty sick to act as if people could mistake a 9-year-old for the bride. Vicky is in serious need of therapy. My wife, 39, is turning 40 in 10 days. We're taking a 5-day vacation, just the two of us, to celebrate. It's the first time that she and I, 38 male, have been away like this as a couple since the birth of our son almost 4 years ago. We planned this trip months ago, and my wife asked her mom if she'd be willing to come to our house and watch our son while we were away. Mother-in-law agreed right away. Mother-in-law is in her early 60s, but has no real job. She'll do cleaning for her brother, who owns a bunch of rental properties, and he pays her in cash. So it's not like she has a schedule she has to clear to stay with our son for a few days. Last weekend, my wife called mother-in-law to talk to her about our trip and ask if there was anything mother-in-law would need or want us to stock in the house regarding food or necessities. During the conversation, mother-in-law said she'd need $100 per day from us. This is the first time she ever brought up wanting to get paid to watch our son. My wife was caught off guard and just kind of agreed to it. But when she got off the phone and told me about it, I got upset. I told her that mother-in-law is taking advantage of the situation because she thinks we have no other options. I told her that it was BS, that she sprung this on us so close to the trip, and I don't think we should pay her anything. I said I'd call my parents to see if they'd watch our son instead. My wife told me that my mother-in-law wouldn't ask that sort of thing unless she needs the money, and that adding $500 to our vacation trip wasn't that much of a big deal. I told her, it's not about the money to me. It's about mother-in-law being sneaky and manipulative. I called my mom and asked her if they could watch our son instead, and she jumped at the idea. Both my parents are recently retired, so they have plenty of free time and would love an extended grandson visit. I didn't explain the reason for the change. I just told them that things didn't work out with the mother-in-law. I told my wife that my parents can watch our son instead, and that she should call her mom and tell her that we no longer need her to babysit. She said she didn't want to do that because mother-in-law was really looking forward to seeing our son. It's been over 6 months. I told her that if she looked forward to it that much, she wouldn't be trying to swindle us out of $500. I told her if she didn't want to make the call, I'd gladly do it. She reluctantly made the call herself, but it didn't go well. Mother-in-law got upset because we're now depriving her of seeing her grandson. My wife got emotional and ended up backtracking and said she would talk to me to see if we could work something out. After the call, she asked me if there was some way we could figure this out, and I told her we weren't changing anything again this close to our trip. She said maybe we could offer mother-in-law a lesser amount, but I reiterated that it wasn't about the money. It was about mother-in-law being sneaky and trying to take advantage of us. I need to see my grandbabies, but I also need cash. BS. Not the idiot. If she wanted or needed to be paid, it should have been discussed up front and before she agreed to help. It's not something you bring up last minute. This is not about the money. This is about her being manipulative in her approach. The way she's handling the refusal is indicative of that. OP, your wife's not permitted to have reasonable boundaries with your mother-in-law. You need to open a real discussion about the dynamic of their relationship. It's very unhealthy and will continue to impact you and your child for years to come. You need to agree on some boundaries, and it might be helpful for your wife if you are the enforcer for a period of time. This is her issue, and she should be managing it, but when you grow up with highly manipulative parents like this, it can be incredibly difficult to set and enforce boundaries, and a supportive spouse willing to take the brunt of the conflicts can be incredibly helpful in breaking free. Your wife needs therapy. You are the idiot for the way you dictate to your wife. You clearly expect veto power over money and big decisions. That kinda sucks. I'm a guy, but I wouldn't dream of saying no if my wife wanted to give her mom $500 for doing nothing. And she'd say the same about me and my parents. In this case, it was compensation for her time caring for your kids. Is the mother-in-law being a little manipulative with the late request? Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe she just needs the money, and rather than ask for a handout, she asked for compensation. My wife of 5 years got into a car accident on Sunday. She had to stay overnight in the hospital due to a severe concussion and looked a bit rough due to the mix of burns and bruises. However, she's feeling a bit better now, and thankfully, none of the injuries were life-threatening. 2 hours ago, my wife gave me the go-ahead, and I called my stepdaughter, Teen, and told her, I know I should have done it earlier, but I was busy talking to doctors and insurance and a lot of things these last 2 days, and we wanted to wait until my wife is out of the hospital since my stepdaughter's been terrified of hospitals ever since her grandma died of cancer 3 years ago. I called and she started crying, but she calmed down after her mom talked to her for a bit. Her father, on the other hand, was angry at us and said that I either should have called him instead and let him tell her, or that I should have called on the day of if it was that serious. I think that doesn't make sense and is weird, but when I talked to my parents, they agreed that I should have told her dad instead so that he could explain it to their daughter. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If your wife said to call the daughter, you call the daughter. This wasn't your information to share, and it sounds like maybe your wife didn't want it being shared until a certain point anyway. People tend to forget that this is private medical information, and you, or in this case she, are not obligated to share that with anyone. I disagree. She has a severe concussion and is not at her best to make decisions. It should have been adult to adult on the day of the accident. The dad could then decide what information needed to be shared. Unfortunately, OP is the idiot, but mostly because he didn't know better. Sounds like he doesn't have kids. Scary news. A parent's health or safety always fits this category, is better delivered, 1, by the other parent if possible, and 2, in person if possible. This was a scary bombshell to drop on a young teen and to not be present to comfort or reassure her. You are the idiot. You should have called her ex-husband because they're co-parenting. He should have been told immediately so he could help the daughter understand what was going on and help her process the event as he felt appropriate. Now she's likely going to fear that something serious will happen to her mom, and she won't find out until her mom dies or until it's too late for her to be helpful or provide support. You seriously couldn't find a spare 5 minutes to call him? She's not just important to you. She's got other folks who care about her and are important to her life story. Sierra and I have been dating for 4 years. I absolutely love her and feel like she was my soulmate. I knew I wanted to propose 2 years into dating, but I decided to wait 1 more year so that I could get into a better situation financially. Last year, I proposed. It was a private proposal on the beach where we went on our first date. She looked at me and said, "I want to marry you, but not right now." She said she wasn't in the right space personally to get engaged and to give her some time. That stung, but I was okay with it. After all, I put off proposing to be in a good position. It's only fair that I give her that chance. It's been a year since then, and I decided to propose again. This time, I asked our friends to help me set it up because I wanted to do something nicer. We orchestrated a nice dinner and a proposal in front of a nice fountain in the city's botanical garden. Everything was ready. Dinner went great, and we went to the fountain. She saw the roses and everything, and then I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She teared up and told me, "Not just yet." This stung really bad. I knew I wanted her in my life forever, but this was the second time she turned me down. I asked why, and she told me the same thing as last year. I asked her if someone was holding her back, maybe family or friend, and she just said, "I just want to make sure that this will work out." This hurt me more than the 2 rejections. I told her that if she isn't sure after 4 years, then what'll make her sure? She asked me to give her some time, and I told her no. I told her I wouldn't keep wasting my time and love if she keeps saying no. I told her that I can't do this anymore. She began begging me not to leave and said, "Fine, I'll marry you, just please don't go." That made me mad, but I didn't say anything. I left. My phone has been blowing up with some of our friends, her parents and her, telling me that I'm an idiot for throwing away a 4-year relationship because she said no, and that I was being a big baby. She just needs time. The other half of our friends aren't on my side, and they're not on hers either. I don't think I'm an idiot for this. Did I overreact? Am I an idiot? If so, how much more time am I supposed to give her? Edit. We're both 29 years old. The second proposal wasn't done in front of my friends. They just helped me plan it and stuff. It was just her and I. We had discussed marriage shortly before I proposed the first time. She was into it and even told me she couldn't see herself with anyone else. She seemed eager about marriage, which is why I was shocked the first time and then angry the second time. Not the idiot. Pretty cut and dry. If the answer isn't, heck yes, it's a no. 4 years is plenty of time. You're perfectly right to move on. She cannot expect you to wait for her forever. She hasn't even given you the legitimate excuse for why she can't. Yeah, there's something she's not saying. It can be very mature to look at yourself critically and say, I'm not ready for marriage. But then you have to be able to articulate why. Does she have doubts about X, Y, or Z? Does she feel like she needs to work on her communication skills? Is there something about OP that she has trouble with? Just telling him, I need time, with no further explanations is unfair. My first instinct is that she knows she doesn't want to be married to you, but is afraid of being alone. If you had used the threat of a breakup to coerce her into agreeing, I'd say you were wrong. But it sounds like this is a deal breaker for you. If she's not ready after 4 years, she's not likely to be ready in the 5th either. Her family and friends are messaging you and calling you names. This part seems really messed up. Get away from these people, OP. You deserve better. Backstory. I, female, and fiancé male have broken up over this. I'm very insecure about my weight and put on 10 kilograms during the global issue, work stress, and grief. I received an ultimatum in July from my fiancé that if I don't lose 4 kilograms by my birthday, yesterday, the wedding at the end of this year would be off, and demanded to know what my starting weight was. I was really distressed and sad by this at the time of the request, and I couldn't even engage with him for a week. I even saw a psychologist to help me process it. I eventually cracked and told him my weight, 76 kilograms. We don't live together, and I worked really hard and lost 5 kilograms in about 5 weeks. Yesterday was my birthday, the weigh-in day, and he came over to visit. First thing in the morning, I wanted to get this over with, still upset by the whole experience, and I stood on the scale in my PJs with my weight coming in at just over 70 kilograms, which he looked at and verbalized. He weighed himself, then asked me to return and reweigh myself in front of him without any clothes on. I refused. My reasoning was that I already felt humiliated, and I was mentally only prepared to do it once, which in my mind I did. He thinks I'm an idiot because I refused to do something important to him. I think he's the idiot for making me go through this experience. I texted a single trusted friend who gave me some reassuring words, essentially that I'm not crazy and this isn't my fault, which I shared with him, not saying who the friend, female, was. He thinks that's not impartial, and I'm bad-mouthing him. We broke up over my refusal to reweigh myself in front of him without clothes on. Am I being unreasonable for not doing something important to him? Am I the idiot for refusing to weigh myself in front of my partner? Not only did you lose the weight, but you proved it fully clothed. What the heck does he want from you? Not the idiot. This breakup is the best thing to ever happen to you. Do not go back to that. Self-respect starts at home. His behavior is sick and would have escalated. This would have probably been the beginning of the weekly naked weight weigh-in for the rest of your life. And look at that. You just lost over 70 kilograms of dead weight. He was an albatross. Move on and find someone who will love you for you, no matter how much you weigh. He was pathological. Imagine what would have happened if you'd gotten pregnant or old. Weight piles on later in life sometimes. What a small-minded wretch of a human. You're lucky you got away. Congratulate yourself for having limits and standards. What the heck did I just read? Girl, the point to dump his butt was back in July when he gave you an ultimatum. He isn't worth the heartache if he doesn't love you as you are. Lose weight if you want to, by all means, but to do it just because he said he wouldn't marry you if you didn't show enormous controlling behavior, immaturity, and huge idiot vibes. Good riddance to a dumpster fire of a human being.